Hi, good morning. We're here with Jason O'Connor from O'Connor Chiropractic in Harrogate. How are you doing, Jason?
I'm doing great, thanks, Mike.
Good stuff. Thank you very much for being with us. So, if you could start things off and give us a bit of an introduction as to who you are, what it is you do, and how long you've been doing it for, please.
My name's Jason O'Connor. I'm a chiropractor. I've been a chiropractor now for 20 years, just recently passed that milestone. It's absolutely flown by. It's something I've got a huge passion for. I don't really see it as a job, 9 to 5. It's my way of living. It's given me amazing opportunities. I've kind of traveled the world with chiropractic, met some amazing people, and I get paid well for doing it. So I'm just so grateful. I kind of fell into chiropractic. Originally, I didn't really know what chiropractic was. I'd love to say I was one of those ones from an early age, like this calling, and that's what I wanted to be. But
Yeah.
like most 18-year-olds, I didn't really know what to do. I just knew I was passionate about sport. I did a lot of sport, and I think that's helped me through my business journey, to be honest. Because I was the school sports captain. I was the rugby captain. I actually got to Leicester Tigers Academy
Oh,
rugby, so played at a good level. Um, but I didn't got to that stage, and I knew I wasn't going to go professional. And I looked at different things in terms of health because I was fascinated by the human body. I was interested in sport, and someone said to me, "Oh, I think you'd be a good chiropractor." It was my old principal at the time, and I kind of looked into it, and I think I met the chiropractor who was the professor at the university, and they said they were the chiropractors for the All Blacks. They're from Auckland, and they were the chiropractors from the All Blacks rugby team. So that really impressed me, and I thought, well, I'll look into this. And then 5 years later, I really found out what it was. When I graduated as a chiropractor, and started off working for someone in Lincoln who was a sports chiropractor. And then soon after, I think it was like 18 months in, I was like, I want my own practice, and
yeah.
that started my journey, and I went from there.
Awesome. Uh, in that introduction, there are so many things that were going off in my mind about, oh, brilliant, obviously, and there's a vast array of experience from that sports world and then sort of translating it into business. And the fact that you're passionate about what you do and that you say it's not a job, that's brilliant. I love to hear that. So, what would you say in terms of sort of moving it into the business side of things and where you are now? What would you say makes you different from other operators, where other people can go? Your kind of unique selling point, is it that passion and the experience that you've mentioned there?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Kind of a question I've asked myself because I think there was 90 chiropractors that started the course, and I think about 50 graduated. So we had a high dropout rate.
Yeah,
And then I'd say of those 50 who I keep in touch with, I wouldn't say a huge amount of them are that successful in business. And I think a big part of that is, when you're learning your degree and you're training 5 years, none of it is about business. And
yeah,
the interesting thing is the chiropractor, because we don't work for the NHS, it's private. You could be the best chiropractor, you could be passionate, but if you don't know anything about business, you're going to fail, because at the end of the day, you've got to pay the bills, you've got to pay your rent, you've got to pay your overheads. And I worked in the clinic I was at as an associate, but they weren't really a successful business. And it was only someone mentioned, oh, there was a course down at the Radisson at Heathrow, a guy called Chimes Consulting, and he was actually a drummer for the Clash.
wow,
Yeah, really interesting story. So
quality.
he was on tour with the Clash in America because obviously they were a very successful band. He
Yeah,
hurt his neck because obviously being a drummer is not that great, I don't think, for your neck and your posture. So a chiropractor there was so impressed with how he could hardly move and he was so much pain, and then this chiropractor helped him immediately, that he thought, I need to look into this. So then he then went on to train to be a chiropractor. His brothers got involved with the business, and they set up something called Chimes Consulting, which was a business coaching. And this was, like you say, nearly 20 years ago, and there was nothing really like that, certainly in the UK, for chiropractors. And I remember being a bit dubious when I went there and a bit wary of it. It just all sounded a bit too good to be true. But then I looked at him and I thought, he was really successful before he went into chiropractic. He's very successful now. and he was just passionate about sharing his knowledge, his systems he had, and just all things I've never heard of before. So I kind of jumped into that first of all, and I realized early on that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to learn all this yourself. There's a lot of people out there that have made lots of mistakes. They've tried lots of things, and now they've got a system that works. And maybe not all of it's for you. And I kind of took things that I thought, oh, I really like that idea, or I really like that concept. And I thought, I'm going to add that into what I'm doing. And then I was just hungry for more knowledge. And have you ever seen MTV Cribs?
Yeah, a few years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's this program, and it's pop stars and all kind of famous people, and they go into the houses and they show them around. And I went on. There was this chiropractor in from California, and he looked at. He's a lovely guy, and I've met him, but he looked absolutely crazy, and he just did this in this format of MTV Cribs about his clinic, and he did this tour of his clinic, and it was Newport Beach, in kind of quite an affluent area of California, and next to him was like a plastic surgeon, and so really high end kind of business people that he had a business there, and he had a huge office, and it had this panoramic view and windows all the way around, and he did this tour around this huge office, and it had a rehab room, it had a lecture room, and he had a room that he set up because he was into music, and he had where he kind of just set up his guitar and played with some music with some friends and stuff like that. And I was like, wow. And he said how we started he'd go to surfing in the morning, and then he'd do his surfing, and then he'd start his practice. And this was just so alien and different to any concept that I've seen. He was just living his best life and doing it completely differently, but hugely successful. And I was like, I've got to go visit this guy. So I'd been to some courses over in the UK, but I realized chiropractic started in America. There's a lot more. There's like 100,000 chiropractors, I think, over there. There's like 3,000 over here. So I thought, I'm going to learn a lot more if I go over there. So I contacted him online, I think over Facebook, sent him a message, say, can I come visit your clinic? There was a conference going on in San Diego. So I just had my son, he's now 11. He'd just been born, and we booked this trip with my wife, and we said, well, let's go over and visit these clinics and explore and see and just open our eyes to it all. And again, I was just so impressed, and certain things like, right, I've got to do that, I've got to add that in, or maybe that's not for me. But I was just willing to learn from other people and not be afraid to maybe take risks. And it's kind of paid off. And I remember when I set up my clinic, because I got this really tiny office in Gainsborough. So I worked in Lincoln. I had to work like 30 miles away from my other clinic. So I set that up. It's keeping my, adhere to my contract. But I set that place up. It was a tiny office. It was £50 a week. And so I set the business up from scratch. I had no patience, but I was going in. I remember going to Boots Chemist, the local sports club, and just trying to get patients from anywhere. But gradually built it up into a fairly successful little business, really low overheads. My mum worked on the desk. So and it was literally, you open the door, and my mum was sat there on the desk, and then there was another room behind where I was doing the adjusting, and then there was a toilet, which was like doubled up as a change room. And that was it. It was, in about a year, we'd got it quite busy, and then I actually sold that practice, that patient base, to another chiropractor, and that enabled me to then move to Harrogate, where we are now, and start a business. But even then, I remember putting a business plan together. Went to NatWest Bank, and they kind of approved it in theory kind of thing, but they had to go to the lending team. So I'd kind of handed my notice in at my previous job. We'd put the house up for sale that we were living in with my partner at the time, and we'd put an offer, we'd look to put an offer in at a building in Harrogate, and then NatWest come back and said it's not been approved. So I remember that, because I think you talk about turning points. That was a massive turning point where I thought, this is really bad. got no job, nowhere to live. I've put all my chips on this and it's not worked out. And I remember having this like provisional offer in my hand. And my partner at the time, she was like in tears, like giving up, and thought, this is it, it's all going to end in disaster. And I remember thinking, right, I'll put my best suit on. I went to HSBC Bank, walked in, and I said, can I have an appointment with the bank manager? And luckily, it was one of those times where the bank manager was free and you could actually meet them. And I sat down with him and I said, right, I've got this offer from that West for this business proposal. I just wondered if you can beat it. I knew that I'd had it turned down, but I put that to him, and he had a look through it, and he asked me again, what was my business plan. I think he got across my passion and my energy of what I wanted to do, and he said, yeah, I think we can accommodate that. And I said, well, I'm a bit of a rush, because I don't want to go to a lending team and things like that. He said, no, I make the decision. And I remember now he leaned across the table and shook my hand and said, yeah, we'll do it. And that was like, a big catalyst then, where I was able to do it. But then I was really on the line then, where I had obviously my debt still from university.
Yeah.
And then I'd just taken on £500,000 mortgage. Also, which was, I was a lot more than 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And then I had to buy all the equipment. So I bought new benches, an X-ray machine, put that all on finance. And again, we had zero patience, and we had to just go out there and make it happen. And so one of the things I'd say is take risks. You won't get it right. Was it Michael Jordan? He said he's failed so many more times than he's succeeded.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's been little failures along the way, but I think the big times when I could have failed, it's kind of come off. But I also think I've taken ideas from other people who've been successful as well.
Brilliant. So I love listening to that story and that journey, because there's so much entrepreneurial adventure in there, and passion, and crossing over from your job as a chiropractor to actually setting up a business and going out and making it happen, and having to go through all those challenges that are very entrepreneurial, business like. So if you were to describe that journey, how would you, from where you were to where you are now, since setting up the business in Harrogate, what word, maybe one or two words, would you use?
I'm proud. I mean, I took my dad. We just bought our year and a half ago. Just bought our dream house, 6-bedroom house in the country, massive garden. I've got a gym, all the things I'd ever wanted. A cinema room in this house. Mm-hmm. And I took my dad. My dad came over the first time, and my dad's 85 now, and his house not brilliant, but he lost his business. And I think he had he lost his house, his business, and we lived in a council estate in Scunthorpe, which Scunthorpe's, if anyone knows Scunthorpe, it's not the most affluent places. And we lived in a council estate there. And I don't know whether that was a drive, that fear of failure and what happened to us as when we were young, which has driven me on and kept me going, even when times I thought we could potentially fail here. But I think a big part of it is having a passion as well. So I want to be successful. I'm driven. I've got wonderful friends, family around me, but also what I'm in chiropractic, because I'm so passionate about it. It's easy to get up early, to work late, to put yourself out there, because I help so many people as well, and I see that transformation in people's lives, and that's one thing I'll never get tired of. So I suppose I'm greedy, because I want more of that. I want more. I want to change more families' lives, and like I say, I look after from newborn babies with birth traumas to we've got patients in the 90s with osteoporosis. So I genuinely think that is a big part of, because you get times when you're fatigued, you're down, things that go in your way. But then you step back, and I always get excited of what can be, what could be, and what more I want to achieve in my career. And I genuinely think I'm, and not even halfway there with it. I've been 20 years. Yeah. I've opened up 4 clinics, seen thousands of patients, but I'm already thinking, well, how can I
What's
improve things?
next?
How can I make it better?
Yeah,
What other services can we bring in? So now, like in the clinic, we've got a massage therapist, we've got a PT, we've got a Pilates instructor. So again, from where I started was myself and my mum on the desk, and now we've got a much bigger team.
yeah.
We're serving so many more people.
How big's your team?
Yeah, yeah, we've got. I did have two chiropractors. This is interesting. I did have two chiropractors working for me. I worked from two clinics, and then I realised I was doing less of what I enjoyed, because I really enjoyed actually being with the patients. So I sold one of the clinics to one of the chiropractors, my associate, and let the other one go. And then it was a lot more me with the patients. But then I got more assistants. So I've got what we call CAs, chiropractic assistants. So they're some great team members, Charlotte and Abby, my wife Debbie, who were trained up, and they kind of assist me in doing the assessments, the exams. So I've got more time doing what only I can do. And I think that's, again, what's changed over the years is, like I say, I was an entrepreneur, and I realized then to have that growth, I just needed to do what I was best at and what only I could do.
Yeah.
So then I've got a team around me that do a lot of the important things, but not that I necessarily need to do. And then I can focus on then that time with the patients, doing the adjustments, doing the education side of it. And then I've got the other team that support me. So yeah, and it's kind of, I was working, as I say, 2 clinics, 6 days, but I wasn't as efficient. So now I do like 3.5 days in clinic, and I do a half day, which is a day where I do all my admin. But when we're really busy, we're focused, and we're a lot more efficient. So we actually take care of more people now on 3.5 days than I did when I
Less
had
is
2
more.
clinics and working 6 days.
Yeah, it's funny that kind of focus that it can provide with what do you enjoy doing, what are the most important tasks, and having that efficiency and how you work produces quite often better results than trying to slog it out all the time. Less is more. So another great kind of lessons and things that you've shared there. Thank you. So what, in terms of a biggest business lesson, would that be it that you've learned along the way? If you could pick one in terms of focusing on the right tasks for you to do that you enjoy doing and that you're good at, and getting other people in, or is there anything else as a lesson? If you could pick one in your journey to date, what would it be?
Yeah, I think that continual growth, like you say, for me, it's not earning a certain amount of money, seeing a certain amount of patients. It's actually me continuing to develop and grow as a person, as a chiropractor, and then providing a better service. So just being a better version of myself. I think that's the most important thing to me. I think that drives me more than anything. And
Improvement.
yeah, and like I say, and then it never stops, does it? You keep that. It drives my wife mad. She's always like, "Oh, what's next? What's next?" But
Yeah.
I think that's what keeps my fire burning. That's what keeps my passion, and it stops me. And you see a lot of burnout with people that get that success, and because that was maybe their aim to get the house or the car or the certain amount of money. Once they get there, they kind of then burn out. Whereas, like for me, that's never been an objective. It's always been that I want to be better. I want to see who's the best at who's the best chiropractor, what they're doing, how can I improve myself, how can I reach better heights and be the best version of me. So I think that's the biggest thing, because I think the rest of it almost takes care of itself, because if you're constantly striving to improve yourself, provide a better service, you'll reciprocate. If you know what you know what you see back is equal to the level of service you provide. I always think that. So I think if you always focus on that, the rest of it kind of takes care of itself.
Yeah, there's a quote by Jim Rohn. Have you heard of Jim Rohn?
Yes, yeah.
It's work harder on yourself than you do on your job, and that's kind of a sort of mantra here at Action Coach that we like to use and live by, because that personal development is what it's all about, really, bringing out the best of yourself.
Yeah, and again, you see people, they get really massive successful businesses, and then they'll have a health crisis, they'll have a heart attack, a stroke, or cancer, or something like that. And again, it's because they've been so focused on the business and not really looked at themselves. And I think that physical health, mental health, spiritual health, you have to invest time into that. So just the way I have meetings that I have during the week that I stick to, or appointments, I do that the same way with my my exercise, my nutrition, getting to bed, and I think that that's really important for that longevity. But otherwise, yeah, you can be really successful in the short term, but you don't look after yourself, so it's going to stop you. Something will stop you in your tracks, whether say physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. So it's just looking after that as well if you want to be in it for the long term. In terms of our website, it's o'connorchiro.co.uk. So great resource on there. We provide a lot of information on what we do, what chiropractic is, what we do, techniques we use. So yeah, if anyone wants any more information about chiropractic, what I do, that's a great place to start. And we're in the centre of Harrogate on 101 Station Parade, just next to Waitrose. So yeah, really accessible in the centre of town. And like you say, if it, I have people who come and observe. We regularly have chiropractors that observe me, or people just want to see what we do in terms of the business. They're more than welcome as well to see. I'm always got 5-10 minutes to have a chat about what we do and how we've achieved where we are. So
fantastic. It's been a genuine pleasure listening to your story. Thank you very much for sharing all that you have, and I wish you all the best for the future, for yourself, your family, and the business.
Thank you, Mike. Cheers.